I'm willing to listen to anybody who can make a coherent case for something. I don't care what your credentials are. I don't care what, if you can make it internally coherent and you can present evidence that squares with it, I'll take that on board and run with it until someone proves otherwise. And I've learned some very interesting stuff about the school of virology and how politicized it's been, and how much of the so-called science with it is there's lots of different perspectives out there. And I won't go any further than that because that's the type of stuff that definitely gets you manhunted. But that was a really big red pill for me, realizing the extent to which the entire medical system has been just completely compromised, not just on the pharmaceutical side, but even on the scientific research side. I had no idea just how corrupted and bought off the whole thing was. And so then I think what Trump did was Trump really black-pilled me, just to use the terminology, black-pilled me on the utility of the public as a political vehicle. Just that they're just completely given over to these propagandists. There's nothing you're ever going to do to wrangle up enough of them to make a difference. That was probably so I guess maybe it was that Trump basically is what convinced me that everyone was a bunch of sheep. And then COVID was the thing that convinced me that all the institutions were completely bought off and corrupted. Mm-hmm. And once I had those two things on board, then it was just like, okay, I need to remake my entire worldview. I need to completely change the way that I'm approaching the world, because I'm not living in the world that I thought I was. And that's a sobering thought. That's a kind of a difficult thought to take on board and to run with. And I think that's probably why a lot of people don't want to do it. A lot of people would rather just kind of throw the blinders on and pretend, no, none of that stuff's the case. I'm going to keep running with the world as if it is still the way it was before I was presented with this new information. So that was kind of where I was left after COVID. And another big thing that happened with it as well was that when I was going through the stretch of several weeks there where it looked like the virus itself might actually be genuinely like Ebola, maybe not quite Ebola, but like, that level of deadly. I was thinking, okay, so if this is actually this bad, if it's actually bad enough that the best solution for people is lock yourselves down. Like imagine if there actually was a pathogen that was going around.
Yeah.
And the best thing that you could do is everyone separate yourselves. Just like the whole community cooperate, work together. We're all going to separate ourselves. We're going to make sure that we're going to test ourselves for symptoms. Like that kind of thing was plausible to me. As like, this is something that hypothetically, there could be some really bad bug that somehow gets out and does all that. I was like, a libertarian society, or at least a society made up of the people who are libertarians would be absolutely decimated by something like that. Mm-hmm. They would have no capability of dealing with it. There isn't a ground up decentralized method of managing that type of a threat. It just doesn't exist. The only way that a human population is actually going to really effectively manage a hypothetical situation like that is with a top-down authoritarian, like, we're locking you down for your own good, whether you like it or not. Now, that doesn't mean that I think that the current system is good. It's the exact opposite. But that was what really persuaded me that authoritarianism isn't a bad thing. That it's very good to have very rigid, clearly defined authority, and to have the people who are in power be unquestionably in power and have everybody know that they're in power. Give them the responsibility of being in power. Don't make them have to try to pretend that they're not in power, because that's how you get corruption. So those were the kind of the thoughts that really were, if my worldview had been, I guess, kind of dismantled to the ground, that was what was kind of starting to build it back up again.
And part of the problem with what you're saying that people won't realize is it's okay to believe that there can be, should be, and will be an elite. It's that we're so used to the people that are presented and pushed as our elite are very low quality elite. And so we're used to saying, well, if you hear someone like say what you just said, well, oh my God, this guy wants someone like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to have all the power. No, that's not. But to an untrained ear, that is what some might think when they hear you say these things. It's Hans Hermann Hoppe has said this, and so has Jeff Deist. It's not that we're against an elite. It's that the elite that we have now are super low qualified to be that, and
Yes.
they're propped up there through a system that doesn't work for us because of all kinds of shadowy groups that we can talk about.
And the reason why the system doesn't work for us is because it has been built to satisfy the assumptions that people exercising power over other people is wrong and immoral.
Mhm.
So the entire system has been built so that everyone who is exercising power over other people can plausibly say that they aren't. That's the fundamental assumption that undergirds the American regime, which is the Western regime at large.
Mhm.
It's built with the idea of the radical sovereignty of the individual and like total skepticism of authority and power. And paradoxically, that's what's created one of the most untrammeled, powerful authorities of all time.
Yes.
So doing more of the stuff that gave us this isn't going to solve that problem. That's why you're going to have an elite who has power and authority. What you want is you want a high quality elite that everybody knows has the power and authority that they do. What we
Right.
have is a low quality elite where nobody is held accountable for the power that they actually hold. And that's because our system was built by libertarians, essentially, because it's built with the libertarian metaphysical assumptions. That's why we have the system that we do. We have the system that we do because of the ideas that are central to libertarianism.